Hi everybody, bonjour tout le monde, this is Capital JB Comics. I'm JB and welcome to my video that talks about my new collecting strategy starting January 2019. Before we get started into that, I would like to give you guys a little backstory about me and my life and my journey with comic books and comic book characters. I immigrated here from Haiti at the age of 6, so meeting my parents at the age of 6 for the first time because they had to immigrate when I was 2 pretty much. So I was raised from the age of 2 to 6 by my grandmother and my aunt. So growing up, I knew nothing about superheroes. The only superhero character that I kind of knew was Michael from Knight Rider. Don't ask me how I knew him, I just knew him.
Knight Rider, a shadowy flight into the dangerous world of a man who does not exist.
And I thought every car was like the Knight Rider car or whatever. Kit, is that his name, Kit? So I remember meeting my parents for the first time and we getting into the car to head home, and I was sitting in the front seat because that was legal back then and looking at all the buttons on the dashboard. I was like, wow, this is so cool. My dad has a Knight Rider car.
Who's your favorite superhero?
My dad.
And I asked him, I was like, Dad, he's like, yeah. I'm like, if I press the buttons, is the car gonna fly?
He was like, did you just make that up? I was like, I think so.
He was cool as a cucumber. This is what he said. Yeah, sure, the car can fly, but we won't do it now because it's nighttime and the cops are out and they don't like it when you fly in nighttime. I was like, oh yeah, makes sense. I remember every Saturday morning waking up at 7 a.m. me and my baby brother and just watching Spider-Man, Batman and the X-Men, and that iconic X-Men song was just so good. Oh my god, it was so good. But my parents never had any extra money to give me to go buy comic books, so I never really bought comic books. Even as a teenager, when I started making my own money, when I went into comic book shops, like I felt lost. I felt like, well, they're like already so far ahead. Like I would need to know exactly what happens from the beginning. So I never bought comic books for that reason until DC came out with New 52. So I felt that was a great jump on point. So I started reading Justice League, and when it got to Justice League Wars, I was sold. I was like, wow, I need to know what happens in each and every other like comic book issue. So I went into Batman, and Batman was already my favorite superhero of all time. And what Snyder and Capullo did with the Night of Owls or something, that was fantastic. The best story I've ever read. Actually, I did read Frank Miller's Dark Knight. That was also amazing. And my other book was Batman 608, the start of Hush. That storyline was amazing as well. Those are my top 3 stories of all time. 3 years ago, I started collecting. I was Pokemonting everything, meaning I was buying everything. I thought I could never afford a key Silver Age, Bronze Age book, so I thought I will collect what's hot now. So I was getting everything, this, that, this, that. I had major fear of missing out, so I was spending crazy amounts in comic book shops. So every year my wife does my books for taxes, since she's a financial advisor, so she takes care of financial planning and investing, so she does our books. and she started saying, you spend a lot of money at the comic book shops. I was like, no way, it's only like 150 a week, 250 here, 350 there, 400 here, but those numbers add up. The first year she said, oh, you spent 15K at the comic book shop, but I still never thought that I could afford a key Bronze Age or a key Silver Age. So I just continued doing the exact same thing that I was doing, getting each and every book, every variant, every week. I was spending like, I remember is in a span of a month, 4 weeks that I spent $500 at the comic book shops, like every week. I was getting 2 of everything. I was slabbing so many books that should never have been slabbed or getting signed. Like, I remember once I got a invoice from CGC, $4,000 US. Convert that to Canadian, that's like $6,000. And I remember telling my wife, like, hey honey, I got the CGC invoice. Like, oh, okay, cool, let's pay it. How much is it? I'm like, 4K. She's like, US. I'm like, yeah. Oh my gosh. She was like, are you nuts? I'm like, well, I'm gonna sell most of them. And I did sell most of them, but I never made crazy amounts of money. On some books I did, but for the most part, like, I never made my money back. So I started thinking, like, man, like, something has to change. Then she kept doing my books, and the amount that I was spending kept getting higher and higher and higher. I'm like, oh my god. But I still never clued in that I could actually afford those key Bronze Age or Silver Age books. Like, but I still kept doing the exact same thing, getting variants and copies and double copies, 3 copies. Like, I was buying everything. I think Marvel knows there's a lot of new collectors that have the mentality that, hey, I could never afford those older key books, so I'm gonna try to get everything hot now. But if you look at it, there hasn't really been any new characters really. All the new characters are a version of the other popular older characters, and I won't get into that because that's the topic of my next video actually, so stay tuned for that. So I'm like, man, like, nothing is never as big as Spider-Man, Peter Parker, or Wolverine. Like, X-23 is great, but she's not Wolverine. So I'm like, man, I need to get into those older books. I'm like, but how do I do it? I don't have 2K in one shot to spend on one comic. I don't have 4K to spend on a single comic. Like, how am I going to do this? And then it hit me. So I started selling most of my books off, most of the books that I was just getting just because. And some of those books included Edge of Spider-Verse #2. Like, I tried reading Spider-Gwen, but the coloring is just like, nope, I can't do it. I can't do it. The art style is just like, nope, it's just too weird. I can't. So all the characters that I don't absolutely love got sold, gone, all of them. Edge of Spider-Verse, gone. I had 2 copies of that book, one in 9.6, one in 9.8, both signed by Stan Lee and Greg Land, gone. Saga #1, RRP, gone. I bought that book because people were saying that book was hot, but I never read a Saga book in my life. Like, and I tried, I just didn't like it because it wasn't for me. So now that I'm getting wiser in my collecting, I know what I like. I know what kind of art I like and what kind of stories I like. So I'm no longer getting those crazy amount of books just because they are hot. Yes, I will try a new book and give it a chance, but I will no longer be getting every single variant. Now let's get to my new strategy. My strategy is just simple, have capital. In 2019, I'm going to start with 12K. 6K for buying books and flipping books, and 6K for my personal collection. The 6K for my personal collection is going to focus on my top 50 top modern books. And the other 6K is just going to buy the books that I know sell well and that people will always want, and also speculating on upcoming movies. If you look at Avenging Spider-Man #9, that book could have been had 2 years ago at a 9.8 at like $200 US. Now it's a $800 book just because they announced Captain Marvel is coming and people went crazy and that book just blew up. Also, that will be subject for many videos coming up, the books that I am focusing on buying to flip. So if you guys are interested in what I am buying in hoping to flip, then by all means subscribe and watch those videos. So I send out the challenge to you guys. I challenge you guys to do the same thing, or at least try it. It doesn't matter the amount, it just matters that it forces you to focus on your books instead of just going in and buying everything because you had no idea what you wanted. And I think that was my problem. I always bought everything because just in case I liked something or something was hot, I just bought them. So trick is, I will be doing my homework, knowing what is coming out, knowing what I want, and knowing what has flipping potential. I will be keeping track of every dime. The days of me spending crazy amounts at the comic book shops in a year are done and over. This one last time, this is not me telling you what to do. This is simply me telling you what I'm going to be doing in 2019. I am saying this out loud so it becomes real. When you say something out loud and when you tell other people, then it's like a contract that I am signing, and I will keep you guys updated. Let me know if you guys would be interested in going into this journey with me in January 2019. If you haven't done so, subscribe, comment, let me know if this is a crazy idea or if this might work. Share this video. The more people that knows about this, the more ideas and more feedback, and the more I can tweak this strategy to make it better. I am learning and growing at the same time, so help me help you. And like always, this is Capital JB Comics, and have fun collecting. I'll see you guys soon. Bye.